Hello, Spooks and Spookettes, and welcome to this special edition of the first ever Count Drahoon's long spooky table talk. But which one is spookier? The table or the talk? Maybe both. I don't know. So, tonight's subject, horror movies. They're scary, and there's a lot of them, which is a good thing, because that is exactly why I have a job, and let's be honest, making monsters doesn't pay well anymore, and neither does being one unless you review horror movies like I do. Tonight, we have a man who makes horror movies. This is Cameron McCasland, and he is the writer and director of a new horror movie called The Lashman. So, can I call you Cameron? Or
Absolutely.
Do you have like a title preference?
Cameron or Cam is fine. Thanks for having me, Cal.
Thank you very much. So, why don't you tell my audience a little bit about what is a Lashman?
Well, Lashman is a horror tale that is, we'll call it a new legend in the sense of it's all built around an old Western tale where you have a man who was a leathersmith by trade. He came to a new place. The people in that town didn't like him there, so ultimately they took him out. They whipped and beat him, left him for dead. An old gypsy woman found him, resurrected him. And he was somewhere between life and death at this point. So somewhere between heaven and hell, somewhere between life and death, he is stuck to roam the earth and seek vengeance.
So he's kind of like stuck in a bus depot.
Exactly.
A celestial bus depot.
Exactly.
That's a terrible thought if you think about it. I mean, I've been stuck here the whole time, but still, it's... I hate bus stops. Do you hate bus stops? Do you go on bus stops much?
I have stopped on a couple bus stops before. I've made those trips. I understand.
When you're a 1,000-year-old vampire like me, people stare at you a lot. And it's very distracting because I'm just sitting there. I could have my luggage with me. Recently someone got me a Game Boy for Christmas. I was playing on that, and some little boy came up to me and said, "Oh, look, it's a vampire playing with a Game Boy." I just want some privacy. But anyway, I digress. Yeah, so, what inspired you to make the film The Lashman?
Well, it was a couple things. Like yourself, I used to work for a horror host named Dr. Gangrene here in the Nashville area. And me and the doc have, over the years, had a great relationship in bringing horror to the masses. And that's been really good for us. So part of it was I knew that I had an audience for it that was already kind of built in. So like you were saying before, it's hard to make money on horror movies. So we wanted to kind of go with something where we knew we would have some people who would want to watch it. On top of that, Tim and Carol Emery, who own the Copper Canyon Ranch up in Hopkinsville, Kentucky, which is an old Western, it's like a Western town where they have gunfights. They do everything from Cub Scout retreats to picnics to during the month of October they have like a haunted hayride that runs through the town. So we kind of took all of the things that we knew we had access to, being a cowboy town and a horror audience and things like that, and kind of built it around that. I was flipping through this old Time Life book, and I saw these pictures of these highwaymen covered in these kind of shrouded masks and everything, used to rob trains. And I thought, well, that would be kind of a spooky idea to have a cowboy who was a slasher, and everything kind of went from there.
Wow, you just answered 5 of my questions in one fell swoop. So tell me about the casting process of this film. Were they, I've noticed on some independent projects, sometimes the director, he asks his friends, to come into the film as an actor or even an extra.
Right.
That happens a lot on camcordertv.com. But with you, so did you go through an agency or?
Did a little bit of both. Whenever I was writing it, Chauncey Phillips, who is on YouTube as his screen name on YouTube is Cool Duder. He reviews movies and he does a lot of horror movies and things like that. I've known Sean for years through messaging, just because he is one of a few people who I knew had a larger DVD collection than me, and it was one of those things where he liked really low budget cinema too, and so we just kind of started talking about it. And the characters that he was playing a lot of were just real hokey kind of characters, and I wanted to do something different with him. So when I was writing with him in mind. Stacy Dixon came on because her and her husband Ben, who own all the Lone Wolf tattoo shops that are here in Nashville, have been sponsors on our Dr. Dan Green show over the years. Larry, who plays Dr. Dan Green, just happened to call Ben about something for the show, and Ben, off the cuff, just kind of said, "Hey, what's Cameron been up to?" He said, "Oh, he just finished the screenplay for a horror movie." And he said, "Well, you need to let Stacy read for it." And I was like, "Oh yeah, that'd be perfect." So that's how we got Stacy involved. We did a casting call that was here in Nashville. We did go through the agencies. I think it was Talent Track Agency, Sharon Smith Talent, that are here in Nashville, and we just kind of did a mass casting call, and that brought in most of the other people, other than say Tim Emery, who owns the Copper Canyon Ranch. He plays a part in the movie. Lee Vervoort, who was a co-producer on the film, who plays the Leathersmith and the title character. That they were just they were friends, but so it was a little bit of both, I would say. You know, we had definitely had some friends in there, but we had some people that are straight actors who we just brought them in for the project.
And you also have a cameo in the film.
I do have a short cameo. I play a bartender in the Old West, and that really kind of came about because we just didn't have enough people that day. So I had someone stand in. I'd set the camera, and obviously I didn't give myself any lines because I think I'm definitely better behind the camera than in front of it.
I was going to ask you that because I figured it was. I assumed it was either a shortage of people or you just wanted to do sort of an Alfred Hitchcock thing, and there you are,
Yeah.
but there you go.
Much respect for Hitchcock. I have done some acting in the past, but it's not something that I am seeking out currently. So it just at the time we were just missing people.
It's a very interesting group of people in the cast. I was curious with the police force, because for some reason when I was watching the movie, I was kind of thinking that maybe possibly you sort of did a neo-realism thing, and in order to get sort of a police, police cars and police uniforms in the film, you cast a police force. But that wasn't the case.
No, it wasn't the case. But we were lucky in that the Hopkinsville Police Department did allow us to come in and rob their closets of all their uniforms. So we grabbed a bunch of them in different sizes.
I hope you returned them.
We did return them after the movie. It was quite a bit after we had finished the movie, but they did get everything back. The truck actually was a truck that we had a decal place that just put it on there, and in the movie, it's actually only one truck all the time. If you notice, they're never in the same shot at the same time, even though two people will be driving it.
So, including pre-production and production and post-production, how long would you say it took to make this film?
It was about 3.5 years total from
Wow.
the time that we rolled in August of 2010 was the initial, and that went from we started on Friday the 13th in August of 2010.
But no bad luck, right?
No bad luck. I thought it was a good omen to start a horror movie on Friday the 13th. And the neat thing was we actually ended our principals out on, it was early in the morning, like 4 or 5 a.m. on my birthday, which was August 24th. So it's real easy for me to remember the dates when we started. We came back a couple weeks later, shot to pick up scenes with our sheriff's deputies and things like that. When it got a little cooler, we did all of the cowboy stuff that you see in the movie. And it was actually a year later on August 24th when we filmed the opening scene. And then after that, it was just post-production. And we did come back and do pickup shots and things like that. But it takes a lot of while because it was just me and my friend Josh Ickes, who was the director of photography on the movie and also the editor. It just took that long to put everything together because we were doing all of the post-production. Right. By the time we finished shooting it, we were out of money.
Wow. So, what kind of equipment did you use?
The movie was shot on a pair of Panasonic DVX 100s, which was a mini DV recorder, standard definition, which nobody seems to be using anymore. I think that worked out for us because it has a real tape-like quality that plays.
I noticed that when I watched this. I sat down, I was watching the movie, and I said, did they make this on tape?
Yeah, and we did, and I think it plays well because of that. Other than that, it was a little bit of everything from, just kind of whatever worked. Sometimes we were using big Hollywood Mole Richardson lights. Sometimes we were using campfires and Coleman lanterns because that's all that we could use out there.
Very nice, very nice. So, you have any funny stories on the set?
I've got a ton of funny stories. I'll tell you one of my favorite stories from the movie was just the situation where we were in because we didn't have a lot of money to put everybody up. So all of the guys that were in the movie, we slept in a horse barn during the entire production. They cleaned it out. We had put down just kind of a layer of carpet. We all slept on cots in there. But there was a night where Jeremy Jones, he had woke up, and he told me this the next morning. He said he had felt something run across the top of his head. And he didn't know if it was a rodent or what it was, but he said he didn't get out of bed because he knew that if he got up, he would never be able to go back to sleep, and he'd probably never sleep in there again. So he just kind of stayed there, and I'm lucky that I never had a mutiny.
Mutinies, they're never fun. I've been through several.
Yes.
And you always feel guilty afterwards. At least that's what some people tell me. But, anyway. So, do you have any favorite one-liners from the film?
You know, I enjoy a whole lot of different things. I wrote the script, and I feel like every one of those characters has a little bit of me in there somewhere. We've got a lot of people talking about Chauncey Phillips' line, talking about the mustard, which is funny because I never saw that as something that would catch on, but apparently it did.
Could you remind me which line that was?
When I was in the car on the way there, I think he says, I hope you brought mustard, and then later on at the campfire, there's a talk about, I hope you didn't use up all the mustard.